What if I told you that one of the world's longest surviving revolutions is now fighting for its life, not against invasion, not against a foreign coup, but against empty shelves, collapsing power grids, and its own exhausted people? For more than 6 decades, the system built by Fidel Castro survived assassination plots, economic isolation, and the fall of its most powerful ally. It outlasted the Cold War. It outlasted 10 U.S. presidents. It survived moments when collapse seemed inevitable. So why does this moment feel different? Why are nationwide blackouts becoming routine? Why are thousands of Cubans leaving every month? And why does it seem like the regime is playing its last carefully calculated card? To understand the present, we have to rewind to the beginning because the crisis unfolding today was set in motion decades ago. Welcome to its financial history too. In 1959, Fidel Castro marched triumphantly into Havana after overthrowing Fulgencio Batista. The revolution promised dignity, equality, and freedom from foreign exploitation. For many Cubans, it was liberation. For Washington, it was a threat. The new government quickly nationalized land, banks, and industries. American-owned assets were seized. Private enterprise shrank. The state expanded into nearly every corner of economic life. In response, the United States imposed a sweeping embargo that would define Cuba's economic trajectory for generations. Cut off from its largest neighbor, Cuba turned to the Soviet Union. The alliance wasn't just ideological, it was financial. Moscow purchased Cuban sugar at inflated prices and supplied oil at generous terms. Billions in aid flowed into the island. In exchange, Cuba became a strategic Cold War outpost, bringing the world to the brink of nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. For decades, the system appeared stable. Literacy soared, healthcare became universal, education was free. Infant mortality fell dramatically. On the surface, it seemed that central planning and revolutionary discipline had succeeded. But beneath that stability was a dependency problem. Nearly 80% of Cuba's trade depended on the Soviet bloc. Sugar exports funded everything. The economy was tightly controlled, prices fixed, wages standardized, private competition almost non-existent. When everything is controlled, adjustment becomes impossible. Then in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. Overnight, Cuba lost its economic lifeline. GDP contracted by more than 30%. Fuel imports plummeted. Public transportation nearly disappeared. Food shortages became widespread. This period became known as the special period in peacetime. It was the regime's first existential economic crisis. And yet it survived. How? Not by transforming the system, but by partially bending it. The government legalized the US dollar. It opened the door to tourism. It encouraged remittances from Cubans abroad. These measures injected foreign currency into the economy, relieving immediate pressure. But they were temporary patches, not structural reforms. The deeper architecture of state control remained intact. Power later transitioned to Raúl Castro as Fidel's health declined. Raúl introduced cautious adjustments, limited private businesses, small agricultural reforms, and modest market experiments. The political system, however, remained centralized. Then came a surprising shift. Diplomatic relations thawed under Barack Obama. Travel increased. Tourism surged. American visitors returned. Optimism briefly resurfaced. But the underlying economic model still relied heavily on external inflows. At the same time, Cuba had developed another dependency, this time on Venezuela. Under Hugo Chavez and later Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela supplied subsidized oil in exchange for Cuban doctors and advisors. It became a new lifeline. When Venezuela's economy collapsed, that support shrank dramatically. Then came COVID-19. Tourism, one of Cuba's main sources of foreign currency, evaporated almost overnight. Borders closed, hotels emptied. Without tourism revenue, the government struggled to import food and fuel. Power shortages intensified. Long lines formed for basic goods. Inflation surged following a chaotic currency reform meant to simplify the dual currency system. Instead of stabilizing the economy, the reform triggered price spikes and deeper shortages. In July 2021, unprecedented protests erupted across the island. Thousands took to the streets demanding change. It was the largest wave of demonstrations since 1959. For decades, the revolution's legitimacy rested on stability and social guarantees. But when the lights go out and food becomes scarce, ideology loses its persuasive power.